relate to, I'd like to get my agenda and call this select board meeting to order in February 24th, as we usually do, if you're able to drive. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is accounts payable warrant number 19, the amount of $431,613.45. I can barely say that.
I move that we approve fiscal year 26 AP warrant number 19 in the amount of $431,613.45.
Seconded.
Then moved and seconded to approve AP warrant number 19, the amount of $431,613.45. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is payroll journal number 343, the amount of $11,729.46.
I move that we approve payroll journal number 343 in the amount of $11,729.46.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to approve payroll journal number 343 in the amount of $11,729.46. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is minutes.
There are no minutes for this week. I'm still working on them.
Next item on the agenda is public comment on non-agenda items. It's an opportunity for any resident of the town of Pownell to step forward and be heard by the select board.
Shane Brady from Allen Road.
Hey, Shane.
I'd just like to drop off a couple of complaint forms.
Okay.
Um,
Talk about them, or are you just,
do you guys want to see them real quick, or do you want?
you just explain them and you?
Yeah. So basically I asked the fire chief for a couple of reports on why he deemed my entrance on Elmwood Road unsafe. And getting the reports, the dates don't match up with the 911 center for Cumberland County. So I'm not really sure how people contact the fire department or what, but
When you say how people contact the fire department, you be more specific. Well, how do you, what do you mean by that? You mean if they need help or? if they're-
right, yeah, I don't know if we got like a personal line for the Pownell Fire Department or if it all goes to the dispatch center or would Jesse have any comment on that?
Well, George, you're in the department. Andy, would you mind, Andy's right here. How does a resident contact the fire department? Do you mind, Andy?
Yeah, that's fine.
911.
So all calls are made to 911?
Yeah, they go through a regional dispatch center and a 911 call center and then to Cumberland County.
And all those calls, they're recorded, right?
Yeah.
Both by computer and by,
Yep. Yeah. Written down by
Written
the
down.
dispatcher.
So theoretically, all the dates that the fire chief would provide that have a date attached to an accident should line up with the regional communication center. Is that my understanding?
can you say that again, Shane? Because I'm trying to follow your line of reasoning.
Okay, so I was provided with 12 dates and times. And these 12 dates and times were accidents that occurred on Elmwood Road around my entrance.
Okay.
And these dates and times don't match the 911 call center for dates and times of reported accidents.
So your complaint is based on your perception that there's a discrepancy between the, I'm assuming it's the FOA request?
Yeah.
To the fire chief and the information that you receive from, did you
get information from 911 dispatch?
Yeah, I did. I had them,
Have that information with you?
I do.
Is it part of the packet?
I can email over the 911 reports. But it's basically every accident or every report of anything that happened in the town of Pownell between the same dates that I got from the fire chief.
Okay, so we'll definitely look at that.
Is that something that I can get on next meeting's agenda to talk about?
I think that they can make no promises because I'm afraid that we'd have to make sure, we'd have to go through our legal, we'd have to go to the lawyer, just make sure that we are not, well, George might be, but I am not a expert on 911 dispatches. So I want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, well, I could understand like 1 or 2 dates off, but not 10 out of the 12.
So if you give,
Would you like it emailed over or do you want
Email's fine.
it? Okay, I also have a paper copy, but I only got one of them because it's 15 pages.
Do you have a scanned version?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, email's fine. Then that way we save paper.
have anything for the board to look at?
Actually, if you guys wanna just look at this briefly.
No, that's huge. I have 2 town of Pownell complaint forms. One is for that.
Yeah,
The other one is for map 3 lot 64.
yeah, so apparently your house doesn't exist on the panel tax map.
Can I interject real quick? So when I emailed you, I should apologize that I did not use words and you can't read my mind. The lot does exist. What I meant was it's mislabeled in the GIS and it should say lot 63, not 64. So I didn't have a property file that said lot 64. So I've asked GIS to fix that because we've always wondered why we haven't been able to link the property card up with that. And we realized in doing your search that that lot in GIS viewshed says 64, but it really should be 63. So the lot exists. Sorry, that was not great
Okay.
wording in the email. It just, I didn't have that specific folder because the lot's mislabeled on the GIS and doesn't correspond with what I have in-house. So we're getting that fixed. If you want a copy of lot 63, we can do that.
There's a property folder in the basement, not the basement, but the code office.
I went through and could not find it, and I asked code enforcement, and he couldn't find the 64. We had 63 and 65, but not 64. Because you asked for 65, right?
Yeah, 64 and 65.
64 and 65, so I only had 63 and 65, but not 64. And so then when we got looking, we realized GIS is, according to what I have found, incorrect on the view shed. It needs to be fixed and say 63 to link up with what we have in assessing data.
So does 63 not exist or is that?
Well, the GIS that says lot 64 really should be lot 63, according to the folder I have downstairs.
So would you be willing to let the view shed correction happen and then you come back? We'll keep this complaint file, see if we can some correction here.
And if there is a 64, I'll ask code enforcement, but there wasn't at the time I went through the file folder, the filing cabinet, and that's how I discovered
I
you.
want to answer your complaint.
Right.
There's a correction happening.
Right, but that just also confuses me because then that means there's a missing lot. Because if 64 is supposed to be 63, where's 63?
Well, I'll have to see if there is a file folder for 64 because I didn't find one, so I assumed there wasn't one named 64, that we went from 63 to 65 in the filing system. When I pulled 63 and realized by looking at the data that that's what the GIS should be labeled as, I notified Viewshed right away to get that updated. So I have not seen a file folder that says lot 64. So I made an assumption that without that folder, we go 63 to 65 in our assessing data. So I'll look into it a little bit more, but my initial look into it found that discrepancy and I'm getting that fixed on the GIS systems.
Okay, so
That
there,
makes sense?
yeah, that just.
Well,
means
at least
that-
part of it,
Yeah.
anyway, okay.
Basically, there's just random missing lots. Because one of those must have been combined at some point or,
There's a lot down there that's combined.
You know, if the lot went through planning board approval? Or was it done?
Re-planning. But we'll definitely get an answer for this, okay?
Okay,
You will send information for this.
right.
That'll have to go through our attorney, just, so you'll have to wait. We'll do it as fast as we can, but
So if that doesn't get done relatively soon, is it possible to push off the zoning board of appeals meeting? That's 2 weeks. Cause
I can't make any promises to how fast the town attorney looks at thing and with my schedule too, and things coming up, other deadlines that I'm trying to miss, that review on my part sometimes will take a little bit longer. If we have to, I'll reach out, but we're gonna be looking into, we had no other date in March, but the March 11th one that the attorney could line up, and be there. So we're gonna be well into April at that point. Just kind of setting
Now,
that
if-
expectation, so.
If we couldn't get this problem fixed before the zoning board of appeals meeting, would it be possible to get a letter from the fire chief stating why there could be a discrepancy or? Because that's a big,
so now I understand there's a time crunch.
right, this isn't just a,
So I would suggest, and I don't know, because I don't know how much the attorney has to do, but I would suggest that, we postpone it. This is gonna be salient to Mr. Brady's appeal. You don't want to go into an appeal without all the information that you need, right?
well, I'm all right with going into it, but if it gets shut down, then that means I have to sue the town. And I'm trying to work with the town still and not really go down that route just yet.
Well,
And this is a pretty big misunderstanding.
yeah, I understand. Sorry, I didn't mean to, go ahead.
I wouldn't be, like, this isn't just 1 or 2 dates. This is 10 out of the 12 dates don't match up.
Can you understand how important it is for us to make sure that we get through our attorney? You understand that?
I understand that, but is there any repercussion that could come about this, or is it just wash your hands and just say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake?
I don't think anyone has mentioned any washing hands. I think that's a very dangerous thing to say in a public meeting.
I feel like a lot of stuff gets brushed under the rug or just blatantly ignored.
Really. That's why we have these forms. I hope you, if you really feel that way, if you feel like you're not being treated fairly, I really hope that you fill out a complaint form. I think we
That-
tried.
What I did for the one that's right there in front of you. Have you read it?
Shane, we can't fix it tonight.
I'm not asking to have it fixed. I just want it fixed correctly and not get swept under the rug.
But has there been any conversation here about ignoring your request?
I'm just talking about future. I'm not talking about right now. I'm just saying I'd like it handled correctly. Because as its duties as a select board, have you read your oath?
That's a little condescending. Shane. Is that the attitude that you want to take at this? If you want to be condescending to the select board, we'll treat you in kind.
That's completely fair and I'm okay with it.
We'll take care of this, Shane. Thank you very much for bringing it up.
Are you sure? Okay.
Are there any other residents? Please.
Good evening, Susan Peters. I'm here as Chair of the Future Facilities Committee. And we are just, or I am just looking in preparation for upcoming warrants in our budget. I need for the committee, or the committee wants to be very clear on the expectations of the committee from the town of the select board regarding the stall shed. I know that we are looking at hiring, or maybe we've hired, I'm not sure what that process is. And I believe the majority of the fixes, I think 3 out of 4 are supposed to be covered under that. So I just want to know what our expectations are going forward for the next year. It's a hard one.
Can you repeat your question? I'm really, no, I want to.
So, no, I know.
Trying to,
I understand. So we are preparing for next year for the budget and for any warrant articles that we may have. The salt shed was a major discussion point last year. And we want to make sure that we're very clear before we go into the town meeting and that we're prepared for expectations for the salt shed.
Sort of thought.
Um,
Can you stop right there?
I sure can.
We have taken the salt shed off the Future Facility Commission.
I believe when we determined that we needed to put an RFP out, the select board took over that portion of the project because it's going to need, so they're going to be looking at the contract for Galen Associates tonight and potentially approving that to move forward with the assessment. And our hopes is we'll have a warrant article in June for the repairs that are recommended. So at that point, I think we're several years out at needing to worry about the sand and salt shed. So I believe it's off your project.
So my only question now is informing the town, and I'm wondering if the select board would be willing to put in this next newsletter that's coming out, just an explanation for that, so the town's aware that the Future Facilities Committee is no longer responsible for the salt shed and why. Because I know we just like to keep the town up to date.
We've missed the deadline on the newsletter because that was last week, I think, for submission. So she's already putting it all together. I don't think we can get another article into it this late in the game.
Excuse me for stepping on you.
Yep.
We're gonna have Jaylene put in that if we do approve the RFP, the select board has approved an RFP for the evaluation of the consultants. The select board will be making recommendations, not the Future Facility.
Yeah, we could put that up on news and social media because the constant contact is already scheduled and just went through final approval too for this week. So I'm not sure I could get that one. We're just at those deadlines, but
Yeah.
we have other means. We have other means. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, I think Andy is being patient.
I'll be patient a little
Okay, Mr. Brady?
Just another quick thing. Is it possible to get reimbursed for my Freedom of Information Act payments to the town?
This is,
Basically, I'm just looking for the fire chief's reimbursement for his portion of it. Because if the dates are found to be incorrect, I believe I paid for something that was not worth my money.
sure, our attorney will advise us. Sure.
Okay, because there's another second packet that I'm supposed to pick up, and part of the Freedom of Information Act, if it's deemed to be beneficial to the public, it shouldn't have to be paid for by an applicant.
Okay. We will certainly take the lawyer's advice. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You remember your address?
Don't know where.
Susan Briggs lives on the Allen Road. Is your address number? Do you have a number? 497 Allen Road. Legal?
Andy O'Brien, 54 Upper Minot Road. I got forwarded an invitation that I believe you folks received from Michael Brandemart from the Royal River Restoration Group. And it was sent to town leaders. The town engineer in Yarmouth forwarded it to me because he thought I might be interested in going to this meeting, and I am. It has to do with their dam removal and everything down in Yarmouth, and I have some concerns about that, what it's gonna do to Chandler Brook. And that's our major water supply for firefighting in town here, so I plan on attending the meeting, and I urge at least one of you to go. It's March 3rd at 4 o'clock at the Maine Fish and Wildlife Office in Gray.
You give me the time again?
It's 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I believe.
Wow. That near the park?
Up on 26, yeah, just beyond the park.
We haven't got a notice of that. I haven't received it.
It sounds
I think,
vaguely.
Yeah.
familiar, like we might have gotten an email, but I can't remember that explicitly though.
David, would you have your contact in Yarmouth forward it to,
I can forward it to you right now.
bring that up? That's
Okay, that's important.
Yeah. You have a hydrant right down on Chadsey, right?
So.
Are there any other residents? Please step forward.
Sorry, I don't usually do this. Is there?
Sing.
Okay.
No singing attack.
Good.
Name and address.
Yeah, I'm Mark Doley from 196 Merrill Road. And I'm the father of a Pownell Elementary School student. And I think the superintendent is going to be coming to explain a couple of scenarios in a couple of weeks for a reorganization of RSU 5. And I watched their initial presentation where they made the proposals, and the board seemed keen on what's called scenario 2. And in scenario 2, Pownell Elementary School will be changed into an early childhood school for 3 and 4-year-olds for Freeport, Pownell, and Durham. And the Pownell kids would bus off to Durham, and the Durham middle school kids would go to Freeport, and there'd be a big reshuffle. I wasn't convinced that that would be a budget neutral solution. There's going to be 6 buildings that remain. There's 6 buildings now, and they're proposing increased programming. I think that there's probably alternate solutions to resolve whatever cost disparities there are with Pownell. And I would hope that some people on this board, or maybe some other prominent folks in Pownell, would be interested in supporting keeping Pownell Elementary School in Pownell, and not falling for the potential budget cuts. I just can't imagine that that's going to be there with a project that complex. You got to be talking about renovations for space use changes. Fire department's going to be involved, and yeah, so I hope that the town of Pownell would be interested in keeping the school. I think everybody knows that property values are highly correlated with how good your schools are. And Pownell Elementary School, recent years, has been ranked as high as number 2 out of 288 schools in Maine. It would just be a bizarre headline to dismantle one of the best schools in Maine. So I just wanted to bring that up, and thank you all for being here every day after day. It's not easy. I never do this, so.
Appreciate you, and I wish more people would take the initiative to come and have their opinions heard. I just want you to know that
March 23rd.
March 23rd, Superintendent Gray will be at a select board meeting. I'm sure he'll be fielding questions from the public, because every select board meeting. We are also have scheduled a separate meeting, select board, for that. Maybe to give him some suggestions on what kind of body armor you should use. Purple.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing their best. I get it.
His defense, they're looking into the future. He said to the board, come up with some what ifs. And they came up with some what ifs. What they didn't realize is how incredibly loyal and fervent the town of Pownell is to their school.
Yeah.
So he walked into a hornet's nest, I'm sure that.
Well, we already almost have 1,000 signatures, so.
Thank you, and you
But-
encourage anyone to please come to these meetings, to the select board meeting. Everything's recorded, everything's in a minute, so you're your opinion will be on the record. Thank you.
Well, thank you for giving me the time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Uh, We have two graduates of Pownell Elementary School. Yeah. Jane, you graduated, right? You graduated from the school. All right, is there any other public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to department head reports. Department head reports can be viewed on respective website. You click the department and their reports are there. Does the select board have any questions for the department heads present? Ms. Taylor Chase and Mr. Peters? Seeing none, does the select board have anything to report at this time? All right. New business, budget presentations, public safety, PCWA, cemetery, and revenues. Step forward and let's have a good time. Hey. Hold on, we have one recalcitrant. I think you're here. You can share my mic. Jenna, make sure you turn your mic on. Jesse, you're up.
Good evening. Going to present the draft version of the fire department budget for next year. Starting on the first page, which covers dispatch services and EMS transport. There's an increase in the dispatch due to a $2,000 contractual IT charge that they're going to be charging us every year now. And a 6% increase to dispatch services. I don't know if you guys all read the email about counties going from 3% to 6%, even though we have a contract with them. So, but I don't know that we have a choice of going anywhere else, so.
A rational person would say that's okay, but.
Yeah. So,
That still contracted through Freeport?
no, we haven't been with Freeport Dispatch for a while. We've been with Cumberland County for, since 2019. So, yeah, so that's EMS service. That's the next item I'm gonna get to. Go ahead.
Do we have a copy of the contract with Cumberland County?
Yes, and I emailed it to the administrator.
Okay.
I have skimmed to see if I found a line that they have an exemption that says, if there's changes in the economic climate, they could increase it. Didn't see anything, but again, I'm not a lawyer or anything, and so my thought was maybe have the town attorney skim it and ask that question next.
I also read it thoroughly, and I did not find anything in there where they could arbitrarily change the contract without talking to us.
We'll take care of that.
We better put some context with it too.
But yeah, so I added in the 6% rather than the 3% because I have a feeling that's the way it's gonna end up anyway, but. EMS transport, as you know, we've been in negotiations with Freeport. They wanted to renegotiate with us. What they brought back was non-palatable for the town. So I've reached.
Could you just say the number, because I think people.
Yeah, so this year we're paying them $40,000 for transport services. For the next year, they wanted us to pay $160,000. So a 300% increase. Yeah, so I reached out to a couple other towns, North Yarmouth and Durham, and they're willing to split it between the two of them. And they're both willing to do it for $300 per call, which is roughly about 100 calls a year, so 15,000 to each of them. Any,
For first page, dispatch. Do I understand there's two different, report to two different towns?
Yes, financially.
You write it down.
okay, on the administrative side of things, the big increases there were to the computer line. 1269 is for ION networking. I believe Becky used to cover this in her budget, but it's been moved into mine for the fire department. 765 is for I am responding, which is how we get our push notifications for calls. County used to pay for that. They've decided they don't want to pay for it anymore. So if we want to continue with it, we have to pay for it. And I would say that the majority of the department, when they're out of pager range, relies, or in a place where they can't use their pager, relies on I am responding to get the push notifications for calls. Not only that, we use it for messaging the whole entire department about events and trainings and things. So it's valuable to us in that regard. 2,700 is for a new reporting software and all around software for the fire department. Right now, we're using the state's free version. And I'm having a lot of trouble running studies on it, pulling reports off of it, even pulling reports to give to Becky for payroll. We had, a couple of years ago, we had another product called ESO that was costing us like $6,000 a year. And I dumped it to try to use the state's version. And after using it for a year and a half, it's not cutting it. So I would like to add that in. And that's 2,700 annually. All in, we get all their platforms, the training platform, the payroll platform, the scheduling platform, the calendar, the messaging. There's just a lot to it. It's called Station Boss. Yeah. And actually, if you go online and look at if you look it up online, you can actually see what everything that we would get with that package. So.
Is it license based? Like, is that?
That's for the license, yeah. One license for 1 year for the entire department. And then there's a one-time 1950 setup fee with them through dispatch. But that's one time and you never have to pay it again. And after checking in with Cumberland County Regional Communications Center, it looks like there'll be no fee on their end to set up Station Boss. With some of the other platforms, there's a fee on that side, but with them, it looks like they can just do it, like simple patch it in. And any questions about that? Go ahead.
Would this eventually take the place of the I am responding?
Hopefully it will. It looks to me like it will. I'm on a demo version of it right now, and it looks like there's a possibility that could take, it would definitely take the place of the push notifications that would be coming through on I am responding. As long as it can do the scheduling and the calendar parts that we use I am responding for and the messaging, then I think we would in the future dump I am responding and just use Station Boss for everything. Any questions?
Question.
On the compensation side of things, I increased, I increased that budget by $500 to give, I have 3 captains. I promoted one of the lieutenants to a captain, simply because of the workload that he has. And he's the one that's handling most of the EMS stuff. So that would cover 3 captains at $2,000 each for the year. The chief stipend, that's just a placeholder until the select board tells me what to put there. The other one, so call pay, increase due to minimum wage. Every year, the minimum wage goes up, so every year I have to keep increasing that. Same thing with the training. I'm increasing maintenance by 50%, due to the fact that as you look at the year to date, we've already spent 6,800 or almost 6,900 in maintenance. So I'm bringing it in line with where it should be. And then the per diem EMS, so I'll take some time now and talk about that. So this year, we were awarded a grant through Maine EMS for $17,000 for, there's several things you could use it for, but you couldn't use it for like regular operating budget. You could use it for recruitment, you could use it for covering shifts or improving response. And what we decided to do was use that money to pilot a on-call program where we would have EMS providers on call 3 nights a week, 2 people, either 2 EMS providers or 1 EMS provider and another firefighter. That way, so nobody's going out by themselves. And it's been relatively a success. We've had maybe 3 shifts that have gone unfilled. But people are willing to sign up for it, and it's overnight, so it's like 5 o'clock in the evening to 5 o'clock in the morning. I put it in there to try to keep that going. I think it's valuable. I think it helps with retention and burnout. I think when it happens, if you get 2 or 3 people that are always going all the time by themselves, you get that burnout, and then people tend to stop going. So,
I have 2 questions about that.
go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, as you were tracking the program during this pilot year, were you able to collect some data about like both quantitative and qualitative data like burnout and retention, but also like how effective it was, or like how, in terms of serving the town? Was that a possibility?
So with the current program that we have now, it's hard to gather some of that data that you just asked about. I will say that as far as the burnout side of things, I would think that if we were still seeing that burnout side of things, we'd see people not wanting to sign up for the shifts. So I think for that part of it, I think it's helping. As far as any other kind of data, it'd be hard to determine.
Offered that as a service before, did you find that there were calls, like was there a need in the town? Like those people want to go out pretty regularly between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m.?
So not every night, but there are nights when, and they're also responsible to come out on fire calls too during that time period. So any call, they would have to come out regardless of their license or level or whatever. I will say that most of our calls are during the day, but it's going to be hard to find people to sign up during the day because everybody's at work. So that would be the problem. So if we could give some people a rest at night, a couple nights a week, knowing that they don't necessarily have to get up, I think that helps. Yes. Any other questions about that part?
The grant?
It was grant last year. Right.
So I don't know if you touched on this or not, chief, but, one would think that if you're sending two EMTs out on it in the evening, say a junior and senior one, it'd probably expedite training to get the newer EMTs.
That's another thing it does. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that's one thing we've been trying to do too, is couple a senior EMS provider with a junior or new EMS provider and try to help bring them along and get them more comfortable doing that kind of work. Kinda, yeah, yeah. But one thing I wanted to try to avoid is having people go out on their own. It still happens, especially on those nights that we don't have the because it's 4 out of the 3 nights we don't have the on-call going, so. Good, all right. And then the other 2 items are due to FICA, Medicare. And then, the health insurance goes from a half year of coverage to a full year. Last year it was only covering half a year of coverage, now it's covering the full.
About compensation.
Town expense, for buildings, the rent, which is basically the offset of the parsonage taxes for Center Station, keeps going up. As you can see, I did not budget enough last year, but I didn't realize taxes were gonna go up as much as they did. So I've already, year to date, I've gone over what was budgeted, so. So I did a pretty big shift on that one to get it back up to where it belongs. So in case anybody doesn't know, the fire station is owned by the town, but the land it sits on is owned by the church. And that was the deal that was struck when the town started taxing the parsonage.
Use continues, so the rent for the fire station is offset by the tax bill. Zero-sum game.
Right.
He has to.
Yep.
Want to make sure we do.
Yep. So telephone, no change on that. However, we've been talking to my liaison, and I think right now we're running 2 phone lines over there at the station. I'm running 1 regular telephone line and 1 fax line. I can get rid of the fax line because we're not using it anymore. So I will be revising that one down. And then on the internet, again, in talking to my liaison, I'm gonna contact them and see if we can't get a better internet plan. Because right now we get junk.
Would it be worth, trying to see if we can package it, phone and internet?
I was thinking about that. The only thing is if we're running that as an EOC, when we lose power, the generator kicks on, we still would not have a telephone if the power goes down, because the cable wouldn't be working, the internet. However, on a regular telephone line, it still works. But I can ask them about it.
Are you talking about a voice over IP, switching to that? Because that's what we have here at the town office. And when the generator kicks on, our phones still work because our internet still works. Because that's what we were a regular phone line, and then I switched over to a voice over IP, which is an internet.
And that's through
And that's through
Consolidated?
Consolidated.
Okay.
I've reached out a couple of times. I will say I've reached out a couple of times about encompassing both Public Works and the fire station under the town office. And then when you call in, you'd have the menu of being able to just choose an option even to get to those. And I get, yeah, we'll get back to you. And then I don't. And then months go by for me too. And so has been in the forefront of my mind to see if we can't get a package deal on all department phone lines under one. So it's something I'm looking at. But it does work. As long as the internet doesn't go down, you
Well,
know,
the internet goes down when the power goes
but
down.
it doesn't here, so I'm wondering if there's.
Well,
a
because you have
way-
consolidated you're still using consolidated for your telephone, and that's probably
Consolidated.
why.
And Charter for internet.
Right.
Video now,
So the charter goes down when the power goes down,
maybe if
because
we,
they run right off the power lines.
maybe if we can work on upgrading you, we could solve that problem too.
Yeah.
Do something better. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, something to look at.
So the idea of, my idea of the end of the string from here to the station isn't fine. Sorry. I think what I was fine.
All right, electricity, as you can see, year to date, we're at 640 for the, North Pownell. So I upped that a little bit to bring it in line with where I think it's gonna end up, starting next year. And then everything else looks about the same except for janitorial, services, not services, supplies, basically. I down that down to 100. We're still running off our COVID supplies, so. But we're starting to run out now, but.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take a break here. Because Shane's been waiting a long time. Do you remember your question that you'd like to ask? Yeah.
Shane Brady from Allen Road again. So I was just curious what the dispatch charge includes. That the $16,000.
That's, our portion of dispatch services through the county. So they dispatch us, they keep track of our times, and they ship us that information, and we complete run reports with that information.
Okay, and then do you know estimated how many reports or incidents that you guys respond to every year?
About 200.
200. Okay.
And it's based on per capita for the county population.
What does that mean?
So we get, if you look at the contract, it says, I think it's like $6.81 per capita. Yeah,
Some people, right?
yeah, per whatever the last census was that they used.
Did that answer your question?
Mostly. Getting back to it with the 200 run reports, would it be cheaper just to sub the fire station out to Durham or North Yarmouth? Because we're looking at close to $250,000. So it's over $1,000 per basically call.
I'm not quite sure I understand your math. You go through that again?
If you go to department totals.
Hmm.
268 or 6,800. And if there's only 200, whatever you call it, phone calls or whatever.
Incidents.
Yeah, incidents. That'd be $1,000 per call. Would it be cheaper just to sub it out to North Yarmouth to Durham? Because if they're willing to do the EMT service for 30,000, I'm sure they'd do the district of Pownell for less than 250,000.
Not say I'm sure, 'cause I'm sure. So I just, we'd have to talk to them about that. I mean, they're busy running their own departments, but that's might be a good point to look at. Thank you.
There's a lot to be considered there too, Shane, that ISO rating. People within a certain distance of a fire station. If you're outside that distance, your fire insurance goes up incredibly. So
Yeah, and
there's a lot to be considered when
response times.
you're doing that.
Certainly would have to be a conversation, right? I mean, that's not something you just do. Dollars and cents are important, but I mean, we certainly have to. Did you have a question?
I did have a question, but it was unrelated to that point. I was just wondering, back when on the compensation page, how many, like employees or how many people, personnel are?
There's 26 people on the roster.
Are they part-time, full-time, volunteers?
They're paid per call. Yeah, paid per call, training, meetings. Pretty much anything they do, department related, they get paid for.
Mr. Brady, we will get back to you. Try to figure out how to assess the difference between county and neighboring towns, okay? So we will get back, I can't tell you when, but we will get back.
Okay. Any questions on buildings? We're all set? Okay. Moving over to operations, apparatus maintenance, I increased engine one's budget because it needs tires next year. Engine two's budget I lowered back down to its normal rate. We had the pump rebuilt, ended up being less than what we thought it was gonna be, which is good. We had added 10,000 in there to rebuild the pump. So that's been taken out. Any questions on that? You want me to go through the whole operations, or do you want me to do it by section? It's probably easier for me to ask questions, or for you to ask questions by the section.
We used to by section.
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions on apparatus maintenance? Okay. Communications, I dropped the radio maintenance and repairs down by $250. For the simple fact that most of our equipment now is new because of the grant that we got from Cumberland County. And the grant we got from Cumberland County and the CIP money we got last year to do radio equipment upgrades. I cut the small engine repair down because we haven't been spending any money on small engine repairs lately. We switched over to using the recreational gas, which does not have ethanol in it in our small engines, and it seems to be working pretty well with them. So we have less issues with those. Extinguishers, there was one year, and I don't know what happened, it was when somebody bought AAA extinguisher, and for some reason, they billed us this enormously high bill. I think it was back in 2024. Last year's actual was 524, and I had asked for 800. This year's was, I think it was 531. It actually was in the warrant that got addressed tonight, so that's why it's not showing up here. So that's why I've reduced that down to 550, and that should be it going forward, providing they don't have major increases in their prices. And hose and ladder testing, the reason I dropped that is because we've gotten rid of a lot of the old antique hose that we used to have, and instead of testing it, we just got rid of it because there's no point in having thousands of feet of hose sitting on the shelf that we're never going to use. Any questions on that? Okay. Fuel and diesel. It looks like we've been spending about $1,200 a year. Between 2000 and 16. So I lowered it down to 18. Knowing that I'd already spent half the year and I've only spent $756. So, and then with the gasoline, it looks like we've been spending right around $45, $44. And I had budgeted 150 in the past, and I lowered that down to 100. Any questions on that? Training materials. Even though we've been having that house to train in, we haven't had to spend a lot of money in training materials lately. So I dropped that down by $100. And then The $770 is, I added that in for Prodigy EMS training. Ever since APEMS, which was the local provider for training, went out of business, they went belly up. It's been difficult to get EMS training. It has to be sanctioned and it has to be, you have to have a certified building to do it in and all kinds of stuff. So the easiest way for us to do EMS training now, certified EMS training, is to do it online. So that's why I added that in. And we've been using it and it's working pretty good. Any questions on training? Um, Health and safety, for, protective gear, I dropped that down by 2,000. We had a large influx of people come in and we needed to increase that budget. We've kind of got most of the newer folks outfitted. So now it's just back down to maintaining, gear and replacing out-of-date gear. So we should be okay with that. And then hazmat safety, basically that's our metering and stuff. I had to replace a meter this year and that's what the year-to-date 1130 is. So I put 1,200 in because we have another meter that we need to have 4 gas meters. Yeah, for, so natural gas, CO, oxygen, and H2S, right, Andy? Yeah. Yeah. And so when somebody calls and says, I got a gas leak in my house, that's what we use. Or if there's CO detectors going off, we use those to, and right now we only have one that's in service, so I need to get another one. Any questions on that section? Okay. Medical supplies, I just raised it by $50. Just because the cost of medical supplies seems to just keep going up. So hose, fittings, and adapters, last year we raised it to add in a Blitzfire for engine 2, which is a ground monitor that we can just set it up and let it flow, and we don't have to keep somebody there on top of it. That's been purchased, so we can go back down to what our normal budget is for hose and fittings. And then, shop supplies and foam, we got a good supply of foam, and shop supplies just covers things like, rags, paper towels, miscellaneous oil, that kind of stuff. So I dropped that down a bit. So I dropped my, that operations budget by about 14%. So the final numbers on the last page there.
Didn't print the last page, but it's up on the screens.
Okay, all right, so it's a total of a 11.54% increase.
That's because of my son wanted to know. So the phone that we use,
Class A foam
that
is PFAS free. Yeah.
you,
Question. The public safety budget.
Jesse, good job.
Thank you.
Next up, the mysterious but ever-present ECWN.
Acting.
Okay, town expense. There's 2 town expense lines of, you'll notice last year, the town expense went up appreciably for insurance. The insurance that we had dropped us. And because they didn't want to do anything with public water systems anymore. So we were forced to scramble at the 11th hour and get insurance. I've researched to see if we could get in with Maine Municipal, and we don't qualify to get in with Maine Municipal, so we're stuck with what we have. So we went up 3% this year on insurance, which is the average going rate on insurance. The second town expense fund pays for the annual audit with the state. And out of that is a little bit of maintenance money for and testing. So that's gonna stay flat. The electricity, we have gone up to about 1,400 in anticipation of rate changes. And that. The sinking fund, if there's anything left in any of these budgets at the end of the year, it goes into the sinking fund, which we would like to keep somewhere around $20,000 for big repairs. If the water line breaks, or we need a new pump, which in the last several years, we've replaced all 3 pumps at the pump house. So that's why we drew down the sinking fund quite a bit. Just trying to replace that without too much hardship. So the grand total on the entire budget is 5%, which is fairly in keeping with the CPI.
Any questions about the PCWA budget? Nice job, Mr. O'Brien. Next up. Get to this one, cemetery.
Cemetery. I met with the Cemetery Commission last November to just talk about budget goals and compensation and pay rates, which I hadn't been able to do before, and we had a good conversation. So I have kept the town expense line the same. That's the line that they buy the flags for Memorial Day, gasoline to run the mowers, and any small maintenance that they might have to do to the mowers. So I kept that the same. And then wages, they had a wage increase this year that I wasn't aware of. So you'll see right now our year-to-date is a little over. They also found a couple of wage slips that didn't get turned in before the end of last fiscal year that I had to pay out in this fiscal year. So that's another reason why we're a little overspent in that line. But there's no wage increases coming next year, so I'm still confident at 6,500. The cemetery, so just 2 points in the cemetery, their general fund, if we have to use any money from that to help offset some of these expenses, we probably will. I believe they're going to have to replace a mower in the spring, and that will come out of that. We also have invested about 95% of the perpetual care fund that they have, and any interest that we get from that can actually be used to help offset some of these unexpected expenses without too much impact on their general fund too. They're at a rate of almost 4% for the 85,000 that I invested last November, and it has grown about $2,000. We were only getting about $20 a month at the bank prior to, so they're pretty happy to see that and have a little bit of, help with offsetting and helping maintain that status quo on their general fund. So just a quick report on cemetery. Any questions?
Cemetery. All right. My favorite revenue.
Yeah, revenues is always a good one. So I did a lot of looking, a lot of averaging, a lot of thinking, and a lot of analyzing to really pull any penny I could out of revenues this year, and feel comfortable, but also take advantage and make sure that we're trying to be as accurate as possible. There is a change, which I'll get to, from the sheets that were sent out because the rev sharing projections came in Friday. And so I adjusted them yesterday and they were a little bit different from the projection I was going on. So we'll start with the cable fees. It has been, if you look at the trend, sort of ticking downward. We just got in our cable fee at 10,566 for this year. So I did bring it down a little bit to kind of go with the trend that seems to happen. I don't know the calculation of how they figure out with the franchise and how that works. So if that's a question you have, it's probably going to require a little bit more research on my end. The franchise has been here for a long time. So, yeah. Questions on cable fees? Excise tax. So it's still ticking upward. We kind of held conservatively for a couple of years. I took the last 3 years average collection and then kind of went 80% and brought it up by 55,000. MSRPs are still rising. Bank rates have held. We're still seeing, I mean, last week I was at the counter for 3 days and I did at least 3 new cars a day. So they're still coming in. I mean, that trend could change in a moment's notice, but just judging by the collection, we're already at 293,000 in excise tax as of last Thursday. So we'll be beyond what we had budgeted again. So I wanted to just come in a little bit more alignment of what we're collecting. So I did raise that one by 55,000. Questions on excise? Boats seem to be a little popular. Looking at the trend again, taking that average and 80%, I brought boat excise up to 2,200, so it's a $200 increase. Town fees, and I made a little note. So this line, we get $2 for every neutered or spayed dog registration that we do stays within the town. So the collection is 6. 3 goes to the state, 2 comes to the town, and then in a minute you'll see where the other dollar goes. So we do about 150 dogs a year. So that's why that one's steady at 300. IF&W agent fees, when we process a transaction at the counter, whether it's a hunting, fishing license or a boat registration, we collect an agent fee. It's usually $1 or $2 depending on what the transaction is. I did bring that one up. As you can see, the last couple of years, the trend has been higher, so I increased that by $50. People are getting outside more, that's good. Clerk fees, so this is where that other dollar on the spayed or neutered dog go when we collect that $6. So that's at 150 for the average amount of dogs that we register. So kept that one steady. Vitals, I did increase by 100. We are seeing an increase in marriage certificate requests and birth certificate requests with a real ID compliancy. That has not stopped. We get almost a request daily, which is quite a bit more than what we used to get for a couple of years. So just looking again at it trending upward, I did bring that up by $100. Okay, rev sharing. So this is the one that's a little different from the sheet I sent out a week ago. So on Friday, the 2027 projection came in at 254,319, and I do 80% of that because again, this is just a projection. Does everybody know what rev sharing is and how the state sort of calculates that? It's so they put 5% of the sales tax into an account, so I say, or into a fund. And then based on really the basic is town population, it is sort of split out. Now, one thing to think about, when I first came on the scene of municipal government, it was only at 3.5% in 2020. Governor Mills brought it to 4 or 4.5, and then eventually 5, and she's kept it up there. Now, we have a governor race this fall, so we're not, who knows what the next governor could do. They may take it back. We don't know, but that's why I don't always like to put 100% of the projections in from the state, not knowing where we're going to have a change at Augusta, what that might look like. So that puts us at 203,455 for rev sharing. So it is an increase of 27,866 over last year still projected. Questions on rev sharing? And copy fax, that's just if people ask us to fax or come in and need to make copies, we have a fee schedule for that. So we just keep that at 100. We never know what we're going to get there. I talked with the assessor, so homestead, if you have been in your home, it's your single-family home, your primary home, and you've lived there for a year, you can apply for what's called the homestead. And that could potentially take 25,000 off the valuation of your house and give you a little bit of savings on your taxes. That is also based on ratio. So last year we were at, or this current year, we're at 76%. So you're only getting 76% of that 25,000 off your eval. We then get reimbursement from the state for all homestead applications that have been submitted. Talking with our assessor, Donna Hayes, she felt that we should hold it steady. She has her audit in 2 weeks, and then we're going to know a little bit better where we're looking as far as our ratio and percentage. So we felt holding it steady probably made sense at this point. And the same exact thing with veterans. If you're a veteran, you can get up to 6,000 additional off on your valuation, and we kept that steady as well. She came in pretty close with her mark last year, so we felt comfortable with that. Lien costs, I reduced lien costs a little bit. These are really passed on to the homeowner that ends up, with a lien filed in their property. So it's not really a huge revenue collection for us. So I did kind of back it off. The other thing that now that we have the part-time staff, we were able to do a lot of reach out last June coming into the end of the fiscal year. And a lot of people didn't know they had like $100 left or $200 because they went off a previous bill or something like that. And we, with all that work, and I really give the credit to Pascal, she was on emails, on the phone, writing letters for about 3 solid weeks. We normally go in about 65 30-day notices, and we were in the 30 range this year. We usually are leaning about 30 to 35, and we only leaned 19 properties last year, and the efforts were really through that collection. We plan to do that again this year. We'd rather take a little bit of moment and try to reach out and stop that process. It saves a lot of work and probably a little bit of angst getting those letters on the other end as well. So that was why I did reduce that one a little bit, hoping that our efforts will continue to lower how much we end up sending to the 30-day process. Real estate interest, the state has set 7% for the upcoming year. So I have set this at 7%, kept it steady over last year. We were at 7.5 last year, so it's fairly close. Tell me if I'm going too fast, too. I know I'm kind of plugging through these. Motor vehicle agents. So just like inland fisheries and wildlife, when we process a registration at the counter, we collect an agent fee for those registrations. Kept that steady at 75 as well. Park fees. So we do get, I know that says anticipated revenue. The check came in last Thursday. So we get a share of the attendance at Bradbury Mountain State Park for it being in Pownell. It's hard to predict because it depends on how many people visit the mountain, but this year we had a fairly good check at $3,925. I did raise it by a couple $100, just kind of looking back through the trend. We have been 45, 36, 36, 39, might even be able to take it up a little bit more. I went a little conservative there. CEO permits, I've kept steady. I want to talk about this block here, why you see that revenue last year, 41,220. Seemed to be a pretty big increase. And I thought, well, did we do a lot more in permits? But that was the permitting for the greenhouses at Estabrook. So I don't anticipate that they're going into any new phases in the next year. So that's why I have kept that back at the 20,000 mark. It seems to be fairly consistent. We're just over the 25, 23, and we're currently at almost 14,000. Board of Appeals fees, we just kind of set that at a 150. We never know if we're going to have one, so we don't particularly put that at a high revenue. And checking interest is ticking down. Interest rates recently on the capital reserve account were 2.15 and it dropped to 1.98 in November. And I've noticed that even in our general checking, it has been ticking downward. So I've kept that right now at 25,000, which was the same at last year. We just don't know what interest rates, are going to do in the next year. And then I have 2 new lines. So TIF revenue, We created our first tax increment financing district. One of the things that we're allowed to do is offset 5% of the town administrator's wages for facilitating the program and maintaining it each year. So the select board, when we discussed this in a workshop back in December, anticipated wanting to put that revenue in this year. So that is $4,164 in new revenue going in this year. That effectively is offsetting 5% of my compensation, which you'll see when we do the compensation budget in 2 weeks. And I might have a quick question, Jesse, on this one. This was FEMA grant money we received at the very end of the fiscal year last year. It was for responses to the storms. Yeah, do you want to talk about the storms? Yep.
So that FEMA grant money is reimbursement grants for responses by Public Works and Public Safety to the back-to-back storms we had in 2024. They were declared disasters, and that's a result of submitting applications to FEMA to get some of that money back. So with that money needs to go back to the operating budgets of those two departments. So when we write the warrant article, we should write so much by taxation and so much by FEMA reimbursement grant. So, okay.
Thank you for writing that.
Yep.
So with all of that, revenues are projected up 18% or $124,026 this year for that section. Any final questions?
A lot. Okay.
We have animal control fees.
I have a
Oh,
question.
absolutely.
I'm getting over a cold. For revenues, sorry, I don't know, how do they blend into the overall budget in the town warrant?
So the way that we do our current warrant is we kind of list all our expenses coming from taxation or whatever sources, and then we do a warrant article that's all of this revenue. And in the end, it's really a math problem. It's here's all your expenses, then minus here's all the revenues that I'm presenting right now that we expect to collect, and then that equals this amount, and then that amount is how we come up with the tax bill. That is a very simplistic form of the math equation. So we spend a lot of time looking at trends, getting the projections from the state, looking at excise tax, and trying to come up with as accurate collection that we think we're going to get, mostly at the counter in revenues. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no,
Great.
that helps. I know it's kind of interesting because I know for some of these, there's like trends that we're making always more revenue than what we're projecting, but
I always go 80%, so I stay just a little conservative because if the car market drops, if interest rates on bank loans go up and people stop buying newer cars and keeping the ones that have sort of aged out into the lower mill rate, then the excise could actually tick downward. And there was a year just recently where it did go backwards, but we were still okay because I didn't 100% project the excise tax. Now,
I know it's, well, with a smaller town too, there's only so many
Sure.
cars you're going to buy in a year.
and then right. I mean, how many, I just think, my goodness, we must be done. And then the next one comes in and a lot where people are replacing cars that they might have held on a little longer through COVID are now replacing them. And they have been at that bottom mill rate for many, many years. And now they're coming into sort of the mill rate chart and we're collecting a little bit more and it's replacing those aged out. And then one thing that the select board does do on the warrant, has for several years, and there is planned to do, is we look at, once the audit has happened, where did we fall? In anticipated revenues, was there an underestimation? And they typically put that into a warrant article next year to help offset the mill rate. So if we have kind of underestimated, there's always a future plan to make sure that money sort of goes back into the budget next year to help offset. You're welcome.
I'm sure you understand that.
Yeah.
So
Oh, definitely.
If we miss
Be clear.
this, then we give it back to the town next year with a warrant.
So the next section is just animal control fees, and that's the first line is if he had to respond to an incident and might have to fine somebody. The second line is if you missed the January 31st deadline and you come in to re-register your dog now, you're paying an additional $25. That's a state mandated late fee, but the town gets to keep that. And so I kept that the same. It's exactly what we collected the year before. And then in this section is subdivision application fees, and we have that at 300. That one, just depending on what comes, to the town for business, it's hard to predict. So we typically keep that one low. So there was no change in that section. All right, Maine Department of Transportation Road Assistance. So we get assistance from the state. We have to supply work that we've done in the town for upkeep with our roads. This year, it had a big increase, 57,932 was a nice check. As you can see, it has been ticking upward. So I brought it up to 40,000 this year to kind of, tick along with that. That's an 11% increase or an additional 4,000 over last year.
So is it that that we are in-house doing more work on the roads that are state or county roads, and we're like billing them for the work we do, or is it that we're getting reimbursed at a higher rate?
I'm not really sure. That would probably be a question for the road commissioner. Maybe pencil that down and I'll mention it to Danny, and next Wednesday when we meet, we can talk. The Public Works fills out the documentation that is needed by the state to get the assistance. So I'm not 100% familiar with the math and how they figure that.
Pretty standard formula. It doesn't increase if the number of times we patch the Allen Road underneath the
bridge.
Yeah, come more. That's a good question.
Because that was something that just came up. That was part of our discussion last budget presentation, so I just wonder.
The last section is miscellaneous. The first one says fund balance at 5,500. That is to facilitate our Pownell Senior Property Tax Assistance Program, where potentially applicants that qualify can get up to a $500 reimbursement check towards their taxes. We've seen increases in that over the last couple of years. And I think this year the check was $475 for everybody that applied. I think we had 13 qualified applicants or something close to that. That money, even though it's in a revenues, it really just comes from the unassigned fund balance to offset that program. That's an ordinance. Mallet Hall rental. Right now, I've kept it the same. Our hopes is with the recent grant money that we just received and the heat pumps that we'll be installing, that it's going to make it even more accessible for rental, because the stage room will be climate controlled in the spring, summer, and fall now, where it hasn't been. And it'll have more efficient heating as well for the winter. This room is getting 2 heat pumps in it too, so we're not sweltering during the summer months of meetings, and maybe offer, more options here. And then downstairs in the offices as well as part of that grant. So we'll have to look and see, if we become a little more desirable for renting some of our rooms, and maybe we can bring that rental up a little bit more. We have some regular rentals happening right now with the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and some other sort of monthly things going on. So it's really gained a lot in the last few years with use. Pay-as-you-throw bag sales, we are no longer doing for this current year. And then metal sales. The metal sales, it's in a revenue, but it really offsets the Pride Collection Day with the payment of the bins. So when we collect all that metal, they figure out what we get for metal. They pay the dumpsters that we get, and we get any residual left from that. And as you can see, it's really not a lot. One year it was $16 is what we ended up with. Previous year, $229. So we just keep that down at $100. That partnership allows for residents to be able to bring that stuff and dispose of it in a good way, where it's hopefully getting recycled. And then the way they offset the cost for us, it really is not quite a net zero, but it really makes a difference for the town and being able to do that. Questions on revenues?
Did a great job, really insightful, looking at a lot of the revenues and the possibilities of ups and downs.
Yeah.
I think you did a Fantastic job.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, well, there you have it. Budget committee. Thank you very much. Another great evening spent together. Good times ahead by all.
It's important to be here.
You're right. We should be giving stickers.
I should note our final budget presentation night is in 2 weeks. Where are we? March 9th. That will be the compensation for general government and public works. You've seen cemetery, you've seen public safety tonight, and then the capital asset planning committee will be here to do their presentation.
Don't we have a meeting?
Yes, we have a meeting next Wednesday for you to meet with department heads to just kind of filter out questions and move. There had been a couple changes in the general government, things that have just come up, and a couple of adjustments I've been able to make. One was lower, 2 were lower. And I want to go over those while it's still fresh, and that way you're a little bit further into the process, because we are coming to the point where your recommendations would be about mid-March coming. So I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to really have a Q&A with all the department heads. Yes. Yep.
When is that meeting again?
The last presentation or the budget committee?
Yeah.
Next Wednesday, March 4th. 3:30. I need to get an email out to you. It's a week from tomorrow. Yes. Nope, week from tomorrow.
You're the reason it's on the floor.
Yes, up here, yes.
Okay. Moving forward, future facilities update. Tyler. Good evening, Mr. Fiegels.
Good evening. For the record, Kyler Fiegels, Future Facilities Committee. Do y'all get the email that I sent out?
I forwarded the email and they have a printed copy.
Okay, so you saw that I met with BH2M and there were radical adjustments to the permitting costs. The first thing as I said, the first item, $73,000 that they included in the list that I asked them to create was in fact their own fee. So we can eliminate that from permitting costs. And then they clarified that the last item, wetlands impact in lieu fee of $75,000 is not due until the start of construction. That leaves a grand total of an estimated cost of $1,981. And so we would like to revise, we would like to add a little bit in because we're not exactly sure, so we would like to revise our request for $2,500 for permitting. And that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, so, thank you, Kyler. And now, Town Administrator, where would we get that from?
So they have $50,000 that was approved by town meeting vote 2 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah, and then they carry forward that 50,000 this year to work towards this project. So it could come from that.
What I was thinking. So would someone like to move that fee?
Move that we approve. Is the wording up to 2,500?
They've asked for $2,500, so let's just say approve
I
$2,500.
move that we approve $2,500 for the Future Facility Committee to cover the permitting costs from BH2M.
Excellent motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve $2,500 to pay for the permitting costs for BH2M Future Facilities Committee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? You got it. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Public Works electrical work quotes. So you have it in front of you? So we have one for 77 from AP Electric. We have one for 4,200 from Electrical Systems. And we have one for 3565 from Mr. May, who's lost it. Thoughts? Becky?
I talked with the road commissioner. He was comfortable with any of these outfits.
They're all have agreed to do the same things?
I believe the scope of work is the same through all of them.
So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer.
It would make sense to me that we take the lowest cost proposal from LM Electrical in New Gloucester.
Do I take a motion for that?
I move that we accept the proposal from LM Electrical in New Gloucester to make improvements to Public Works buildings, facilities, for the amount of $3,565.
Second it?
Seconded to accept the proposal from LN Electric for the electrical update in the town garage. Money coming from
Facilities maintenance.
facilities maintenance. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Who needs it? Do you have the signer copy? Or do I have the signer?
Do you want to have the road commissioner do it, or you
Yeah.
could? Yeah.
I also have in front of me, to whom it may concern by this letter, the undersigned authorized Ben Huff McDonald McMillan to act as the agent for the undersigned.
Yes, that was part of the previous discussion from BH2M. They need a signed agent letter for them to act in our behalf, and we tabled it pending sort of the review of the request of the money in the warrant article. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So that would just need a motion and a signature.
I move that we authorize BH2M to act as the agent for the undersigned town of Pownell in preparation and submission of some federal, state, and local permit applications. Relevant documents.
A second.
Moved and seconded to authorize BH2M to act as the agent for undersigned town of Pownell in preparation and submission of some documents. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, would you pass that on down to Becky? Next item on the agenda must be volunteer forms. Bill Schmidt, Mallet Hall Building and Grounds, Marie Went, Conservation Commission. I'll entertain motion. And, no, Shane is not asking to be appointed. Shane is asking something else. Okay, go.
I move that we approve Bill Schmidt for the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds Committee as a volunteer, and Marie Went for the Conservation Commission as a volunteer.
Second it?
Okay, one at a time. Been moved and seconded to approve Bill Schmidt, William Schmidt, to the Mallet Hall Building and Grounds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item for consideration is Marie Went. It's been moved and seconded to be appointed to the Conservation Commission. Date of appointment, February 23rd, 2026. Date expires June 30th, 2026. All in favor? Thank you both for volunteering. Very valuable. Next item on the agenda is Shane Brady, request for driveway entrance permit reimbursement. Okay, where are we with paperwork on this? Or is this just,
I didn't have any paperwork to,
Jane, you want to just tell us what you want here?
So Shane Brady, Allen Road in Pownell. Basically, I think I'm the only one in the history of Pownell to ever pay for a driveway entrance permit on the state-owned road. And I'm asking to get reimbursed for it. And when I had Becky do some research, she said she went into Trio, and within the last 10 years, the town has never collected entrance permits for state-owned roads.
Becky?
so, just to clarify, the town collects driveway permits for our internal ones, but Maine Department of Transportation, I don't think goes through Trio. So Mr. Brady had given me two FOA requests for two specific driveway entrance permits. I did not have map and lot numbers. I looked in Trio, I guessed at the maps and lots that I thought they were for, but this isn't work that I do on my desk, but I didn't find anything. I did have one Department of Transportation for one of the people he requested for, but this is a CEO oversight, and, I don't know the process fully there, so.
So Shane, I just want to make sure I understand. It's your contention that a private citizen does not pay for a driveway entrance permit to the town on state-owned land, on state-owned, state road, okay?
Right, that's been the previous,
Do you, excuse me for my ignorance,
yeah,
do you get your driveway entrance permit from the town or from the state?
from the state.
From the state, so you don't get it from the town.
But you gotta give a copy of the state permit to the town.
Okay, so you apply to the state.
Yeah, and the state's the one that issues it and not the town.
All right. Definitely gonna look into that, because if that's the case, then we'd have to reimburse yours. I'm not sure what the rule is, but we'll definitely find out by next meeting, if not before.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
All right,
I will be talking to my good buddies at the MDOT. I'm sure they'll give me a straight answer right off the bat.
okay. You also want to check with the road commissioner and code enforcement, or is that, do you want to go straight to Maine DOT?
Wouldn't that be the way I would entertain any other recommendations? I mean, we know that we collected it from you. I should find out whether or not we collected for you in error. Only the state can tell me that, so I'm not sure.
Do you want to go on previous permits that were issued in the town on state-owned roads?
Only interested in your request. Right? Can't change history, but I can correct a mistake.
Okay, but if it wasn't a mistake, is that going to be common practice from this day forward, or is it?
We find out that we're correcting driveway entrance permits incorrectly, we'll certainly inform the code enforcement officer and anyone else that needs to know. Absolutely. I'm not sure about reimbursement of past mistakes. I don't know if.
No, I don't care about past mistakes. I just don't want to be the only one that's held to a certain standard.
That definitely would not be appropriate.
Okay.
So we'll definitely find out. And how much do you remember how much it was?
It was like $101. I don't really care about the money. You can donate it to any of the,
definitely make sure that if we're in error, it gets back to you.
All right,
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. And if we're doing something wrong, we want to make sure we do it right.
all right.
Um, so just, I will do this, but I want to delegate if someone is more, if someone can do it more efficiently. I'll do it. They're good friends of mine. Good. Oops, sorry. Gale Associates contract. Boy, we have more contracts here.
You have an agreed upon contract in front of you. Our attorney had some edits, Gail had some edits, and then everybody did come to agreement. Right now in front of you is a draft, and it just shows you sort of the red lines. If you approve it, I would request approving for me to sign as well, because I can get a cleaned up copy from Gale Associates. But the things that our attorney, especially the ownership of the documents was huge, and then the Torts Claim Act, and they were agreeable to that.
So we will own the documents.
We will, yes, they will own, we will own as well, so.
Perfect. So would someone like to move to approve the Gale Associates contract?
I move that we approve the Gale Associates contract to provide
Sand and salt shed assessment.
sand and salt shed assessments as needed.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Gale Associates contract for stand and salt shed engineering, consulting, evaluation phase services. Any further discussion? All in favor? So will you sign it? I move that we allow Becky Taylor Chase to sign said contract.
Second it.
Seconded to allow Becky Chase to sign said contract. Any discussion? All in favor? Don't mess that up. All right, next item is housing grant opportunity. This is a housing grant from the Maine Office of Community Affairs.
This was a last minute, so Isabel Lee, our town planning consultant, found this grant opportunity that can assist in aiding in our rewrites of our ordinances to be in compliance with LD 2003-1829 and probably 100 others. So she filled out the grant application. I just have one question to the board. She included just 1,000 for legal review, which is about 3 hours. She felt that was okay. I just want to make sure we're all comfortable. The grant is up to 15,000, but we're only asking for a little over 5, which I think positions us well. The deadline is next Wednesday. Yeah.
Entertain a motion. I think the 1,000's probably going to be appropriate.
In the motion, just allow me to sign because she put it in my name as well. Good. Thank you.
So I move we allow Becky Taylor Chase to sign an application to the Maine Office of Community Affairs Housing Opportunity Program Municipal Ordinance Development Grants.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to allow Becky Taylor Chase to sign the application for the Maine Office of Community Affairs Housing Opportunity Program Municipal Ordinance Development Grant. Is there any further discussion?
You had mentioned that you had a question for Isabel. Water.
Yes, she got back to me this morning, and forgive me, I don't have the exact wording up here. She wants me to just make a notation under the public water that we have PCWA, and it's a something controlled, she had words, and I'm sorry, it's escaping me right now, but just to make notes, and she thinks that that would be fine. And then the legal was the only other piece that we just talked about, so thank you for reminding me about that.
Any other further discussion? All in favor? Sign away, Becky.
Great.
Is there any other new business? Okay. Is there any old business? Ampion Solar.
I was tasked with reaching out to get copies of the bills. I did not have time to get that done, so I will work on that in the next couple weeks.
Table that. Casco Bay Trail Management District.
I'll try to be brief. I attended a meeting of the 8 communities a couple of weeks ago. It was great that all 8 communities were able to come to the table on one day. We did not discuss money as a part of this, but we ended up discussing money towards the end, just so you know, after the meeting adjourned. It really focused on how the towns might want to interact as a group. Do we want to be a 501c? Do we want to be interlocal? Everyone determined that we wanted to be interlocal because we didn't want other bodies at the table making decisions. There are 3 or 4 council governments right now that can get the agreement signed. We won't see this until next June. For our warrant, it would require town meeting, but they're still revamping the agreement. But there's $600,000 in grant monies to help with the engineering design right now, with only a 10% cost share to the towns, then divided amongst the 8 towns. So it's very minimal cost, and they wanted to take advantage. I did raise the question to make sure that those town meeting towns that might need a year to bring this to the voters still had a voice at the table in developing the grants, and they agreed to that. So we're kind of in this rendition. It's one of those, if we join it, we have a voice and a vote at the table, but it ultimately could mean a commitment financially to the town down the road for development. If we don't join it, it means we don't have a voice at the table or a vote at the table. It could mean that the trail stops at our borders and continues on both sides. It could also mean that the state just comes in and does what they want too, and we wouldn't have any say. So it's just something, as we get more information and we bring this to town meeting next year, we're going to want to, be getting that information out to everybody and just, knowing what the impacts are with either decision, that is made with the town. But they then adjourned the meeting and then did talk a little bit about how the cost might be broken up. And I did make mention that we had the smallest section. So when Christina Egan said, so what are the communities that are still here? How would you be interested? And my hand went up and said, well, percentage of trail, of course, because the smallest about. So that's something they haven't even talked about. They don't know what kind of formula it could look like. It might be percentage of trail. It might be evenly split, which would not be advantageous to us. But that is talks down the road at this point. But I just wanted to report a little bit. The session was pretty informational this time. I felt like I knew a little bit more about what this agreement entailed and what the future was looking like as we go through this next year with the agreement. Bring it to the town.
Thank you. I think the key to Pownell involvement in that is the bridge.
Mhm.
What? Because that trail is going nowhere with that bridge the way it is now. So
They did talk about it might mean in some areas that it would be so expensive to create a bridge that they would do what they call the long way around and actually create a trail that might add mileage by going the long way around, which would still be cheaper in the long run than building out an extensive bridge over some of the areas. And I felt that was an interesting comment where we have a bridge in ours. And so I'm curious down the road when the engineering study happens, if they would take the long way around and just bypass the bridge and try to find a way to connect the trail to New Gloucester by avoiding the bridge.
the key to that, though, is that there will be an engineering study on that bridge. That's what we want.
Mhm.
We want
Yep.
someone to condemn. As soon as somebody condemns it, we can get the state.
Mhm.
State will, gotta take it down. Someone's gonna. Feels to me like a dangerous situation.
I did follow up to one of the questions that we had when we first talked about this 6 weeks ago was about liability if someone got hurt. And the town attorney did say that the town would not have liability because it's state-owned, that section of the land. We don't actually own it. So that was kind of a relief answer on my part to hear from that. Right. And just for informational purposes, this trail goes from where the old B&M Baked Beans all the way to the Auburn line. And Auburn is building out trails to bring it right into Auburn Center. So you could effectively ride an e-bike from Auburn Center right to North Deering on this trail if it actually gets done the whole way through, if all towns end up doing it.
Yeah. Any questions for Becky on that one? Any correspondence? Nobody has called you at all? So I just need to report out that I had a number of calls about plowing and, various opinions about whether to or not to, and it should be recorded in correspondence that they're about 50-50. Why are they out plowing on Sunday morning? I have it all written down and we'll submit it to the, if anyone has any questions about the comments directed towards the road department. Any other business? And should I open this or is this just for my? We'll open it later. Correspondence for next week. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you all for attending.